Please be advised that the content of this podcast and others featured on Join the Conversation with Summer Keith may not be suitable for all listeners. Our discussions may cover topics relating to mental and physical health, including but not limited to subjects such as suicide, domestic violence, and women's healthcare issues.
I thought I was Wonder Woman because right after you have this baby, and I can speak for a lot of women, you feel like you just climbed Mount Everest. Did you have that feeling like, wow, I had this rush of endorphins that wouldn't stop. I was high on motherhood.
Join the conversation with Summer Keith, where we spill the tea on topics you need for living your best life.
Join the conversation.
Today's topic is moms know more about life than anyone. Summer, how are you today?
I'm fantastic because this is the subject I've been wanting to talk about for a number of years. And so here we are.
Yay.
It's a good topic too. And it's truly dedicated to moms. As the writer and actress Nia Vardalos is quoted saying, motherhood is the greatest and the hardest thing. And if you're a mom listening out there, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And it's so true. And I think moms are greatly underestimated overall. And after years of being one, I can say specifically, it's all moms are very, very important. But it's really and truly the biological moms that have given birth definitely do know more about actual life, because that life has been conceived and it grows within our womb.
And it's the miracle of life. I mean, I think that we're designed and, God has given those hormones that, are blossoming as we're pregnant, as we're nursing, it's to love our child and to, have this unconditional love and be able to, go through a whole night of crying or whatever it is, that we're going to endure by these hormones, this strength that comes to our bodies and our minds, and our knowledge base grows.
It does grow. That's absolutely true. And as a matter of fact, I will interject this. We are in that state of positive nitrogen growth. So there's negative nitrogen growth, which is where we are right now, Celia, because we're getting older. And as we get older, our cells die off more than they are, replicating.
Yeah.
But when you're creating a baby, basically, of course, you've got a whole new life. So that's in positive nitrogen growth, which continues up until, they say now, 24 to 25 years, I think. And then, you start aging. But it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that, you can still be in great health, even up to in your 100, as a centenarian or something.
Goodness, yes.
But anyhow, so as a woman is pregnant, her cells are also in that positive nitrogen growth. So that's why a lot of times, if you're a healthy mother and you're eating the right foods and doing the right things, you're not putting yourself in stress, a lot of times people say, oh, you just have such a glow, or your hair looks thicker and your nails are stronger and your skin looks better because you're also in a state of growth. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. And then you have the baby. It's kind of like, then it becomes catabolic, you go from anabolic to catabolic. So, but anyway, it's a miraculous thing. And I've lived overseas and, I've traveled a lot. We've talked about that, but it's just crazy. I love my country very much, but I will say that it seems like the other countries that I visited, it's like they really embrace, mothers and children. And it's not like any kind of competition between the men. It's like everybody really gets really excited when the kids are born, and they elevate their family as a unit. Well, here sometimes it's like, oh, kids just drive me crazy. Or would you sit, further away from me because your child is crying or something? There's just seems to be, it's kind of like
a disconnect of family, and our goals are a little bit misconstrued, what we want in life. And I think that it's just a change that has been evolving for a while.
It has. I kind of want to bring it back
Mm-hmm.
because, that's something else we know more than anyone. There's even prejudice against moms having kids sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then another thing I wanted to bring out is having one child is a big deal. I mean, having one child is a big deal. Just having a child is a big deal. But when you've had two or more, then you kind of learn about, like a small society of, you've got the partner can be the father or, sometimes it's two moms or two dads or whatever, but you still have this like a small societal system. And then you have the baby. Now, when there's another one, you have 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. That is birth order. And so then the mother they're just generally around their children more anyway, because quite often the children want to be around the mother more because they see the mother as sort of like the core of the family. She's who they're going to go to for whatever they need.
Mm-hmm.
But you learn a lot about diplomacy and, like you had mentioned before, selflessness.
Being a mom definitely makes you a better person. I agree with you, Summer. I mean, all the lessons I learned as being a mom is unconditional love, being selfless, learning to be fair with your kids and, the dynamics between your kids and setting rules and, the foundation for all of the success of a family. We go through quite a lot to be successful. I don't know how we get through it sometimes.
Compromising.
And I, as a parents, we're almost like in a little war zone sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that we make it through and the kids grow up and move on to be good people is definitely a miracle. So it is a hard job, but yes, a rewarding job.
And it never ends. I mean, even if your kids are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, they will still rely on your good advice if they have, if you have a great relationship with them. They'll still come back and ask, about simple things. But again, just the compromises that you make, not even with the child, but with yourself and your time, because I've heard people that haven't had kids say, well, you need to take more time for yourself. I get advice from everybody, just like I give out, I dish out a lot of advice too. And of course, I'm older now, they're grown. But back then, the friends I had that didn't have children would say, well, you just have to tell these kids, because I would listen because they were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started realizing they do not have a clue that sometimes you don't just tell the kids, sit here and play, because what if they trip over? All of a sudden they run to you and you have to stop everything and take care of that problem, or maybe even if they sprain their arm because they fell outside, you got to run to the doctor.
It's definitely a multitasking job.
It is.
You have to be able to do more than one thing at once.
Yeah. It's a whole different lifestyle once you have children. And then also 2 kids or more. So, if you have one child, it's like a novelty somewhat. My child's the best. And if I knew having kids was going to be this easy, then I would have considered having more or whatever. Well, that's not the case, because each child that's born has their own genetic DNA, and they will even, you've heard of the nurture versus nature. That's something else I had to learn, because I just had 2, but they were just so completely different, even though they grew up in the same household. I know that anybody listening to this podcast knows that if you have siblings, or even if you are only child and you have nieces and nephews, there is some influence in how children are raised, if it's a one-parent family or, like single or partner, and then you have, the family comes together if they're all together, like grandparents and stuff like that. But generally speaking, they're still going to be their own person and they will be influenced. So again, nature versus nurture. But having 2 kids or more, that's that's where you develop more knowledge about the dynamics involved. And
yeah, there's so many tricks and tips that we could give here to parents that have more than one child, 2 or 3, 4.
Yeah.
But you almost have to figure this out as you go, right? These two kids get along better than this third one, and do I have to, this one is more into being quiet play, and so I'm going to separate this child and have them over here coloring while these two kids are playing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, having multiple children actually was a blessing and easier for me because I was able to have them play together. And I think when I just had one child, it was one-on-one with
Mm-hmm.
me and the child, and the kids entertained themselves,
Mm-hmm.
when you have more than one, and it was easier all the way around for me.
Yeah.
But you do, there's different dynamics, like you said, with each child being different
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to deal with those differences.
And I'll also include, I taught special needs, and my special needs, of course, we've talked about this before too on a previous podcast. That is another dynamic. So I've known, because just because I know a lot of people, at this age, a lot of people and you've had a lot of interactions, but when you are a teacher with SPED kids, you actually learn more about the families than if you're teaching regular ed kids, because the SPED kids need more support, and you have more parent-teacher conferences, and they have to show up. So that's another issue with parents. It is hard for the mothers of special needs kids because they will have their average regular ed kid, and then they'll have their special need kid. And so let's say it's the kid who's RAD, which is reactive affective disorder, which, likes to throw things. And then all of a sudden, everything's nice. They're drinking their hot cocoa and they're watching their show, and something just sparks out of the blue. And, they have this meltdown. And then the other kid that's just cool, calm as a cucumber has to deal with that. Then the mother usually has to come in and manage that. Where the mother and father are both committed and dedicated, you'll have a much healthier family dynamic. But anyway, so see, that's another example of moms will know more because they are just intrinsically clued in to that child, for better or for worse.
They're the glue.
Yeah,
actually, definitely the glue.
And there are some wonderful men. I remember this guy, a parent who had a child who really, he ended up going to a group home when he got older because the child just got too big to manage at home. Kids grow up, you can have, with special needs does not end after the age of 18,
Mm-hmm.
But the father was the mother was worn out emotionally, and she had the other kids. So the father actually took on that special needs kid.
Wow.
It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. There is some great people,
Oh my gosh.
that do go beyond the call of duty as parents, either mother or father. And I've known mothers that I was so surprised that didn't have that nurturing instinct, and the father does, and vice versa. There is that story as well.
There is, and it just amazes me. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it because it's a leap of faith for these. There's some amazing fathers out there, and maybe they should be have a pat on their back a little more often for what they do.
A special grant.
They should. So, anyway, and then of course, back to the two children or more. So you're dealing with more sibling rivalry, more rules, because now you've got to, you got to set these rules, and then, you're juggling food and diapers. And what if one of the kids has a food allergy and the other one doesn't? Mm-hmm. You can't make peanut butter sandwiches for this one who has a peanut allergy.
Or just a finicky eater in general.
Yeah.
We don't know why this child doesn't want to eat.
Yeah. And they've got to,
it is a lot, and I'm thinking about this because it's kind of past tense for me, but for those parents that are in the field right now doing this job, I just commend them because it's not easy to navigate.
No.
right?
One thing we did encourage at one of the schools where I was working at was to have parents get in touch with each other, where they could cover another one, like have like a community of mothers, especially, again, the SPED kids, where they could maybe have, like a Mother's Day with all their kids, I mean, like four mothers would relieve the other one. And then that way it's not just one mother with two special ed kids. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, trade off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just make it kind of have some enjoyment out of the whole thing, even though it otherwise, when you single yourself out with your child, even if it's not a special needs, it could just be a kid who's what we used to call a willful child, who is got a really high IQ,
Mm-hmm.
but is very, very forceful,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyway, kind of like the communities used to do back in days of the
Yeah, there should be more systems in place even
Yeah.
for regular ed students where
yes,
mothers are pooling together to help each
Yes.
other and, making a system that is, they say
Supportive.
supportive and for all involved.
yeah,
And I don't even think the workplace is very fair because, obviously both parents need to work to
Mhm.
survive at this
Mhm.
point with the cost of living. And you're 15 minutes late to work and they
Mhm.
mark you up, this happens again, you're going to be terminated.
yes,
Or, and they have to realize
Mhm.
that, there's families
Mhm.
and the people that have kids need
Yeah.
special time
Mhm.
to, take their child to the doctor or do a teacher parent conference
or run to the school because they're throwing up all
Right?
over or
And-
something.
or
Yeah,
you're even have a day off just to
Mhm.
regroup.
Yeah,
But I think that our work system
Mhm.
and our education and some of the things that are put into place for families should be thought out better. And-
yeah. They're actually so. After our podcast, we will be including some links because there is an organization I know of
Mhm.
where they can help with trade out for childcare.
Oh, wow. That's
So-
amazing.
Just general childcare. So we'll include that. So anyway, my research, as well as my personal experiences, have taught me over the years, just starting from the very idea of what I mean when I say we know more about life. Men think of knowing more about life as in the business world and mechanical things, which I don't know anything about, cars, construction. But of course, nowadays, women can experience all of those things too because
And we're kind of
we have-
expected to.
Yeah.
We're kind of expected to. Yeah.
So-
I don't know why.
But of course, things, it's just, our world is just evolving and it's evolving so fast. By the way, if it's something mechanical or something I have to learn about, we can get that information on YouTube. It used to be sort of passed down, from
hmm
great grandpa to grandparents and stuff. So we're juggling all those things. So that's, again, going back to life itself. It's the aspects, it's the miraculous physiological and biological changes that just take over our body. And I'm not trying to be preachy about this, but what I'm trying to do also, Celia, and I'm passionate about this, is for women to give themselves respect for that instead of, I don't know, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'll be going out on a limb a lot. Like if somebody uses the term knocked up or something like that, it's like, good grief. This is an amazing adventure. So, and just sit back and go for the ride because there's nothing else you can do
hmm
and be as healthy as you can be. And then, share that knowledge with other kids in your family instead of just being tight-lipped about it. For some reason, I was born in this country, I was raised in this country, but traveling around, I have noticed that here, for some reason, we almost, as open as a society as we think we are, for some reason, we don't really talk that much about, this. Whereas in France, even the English folks, because I was over there for quite a while as well, they're very matter of fact about the whole thing.
hmm
They'll talk about breastfeeding or, the cramps, menstrual cramps or any of that stuff. And therefore, then it doesn't become some big issue. But for some reason, it seems like we're sheltered or puritanical. I don't know what.
Definitely. I agree.
Crazy.
I agree with you.
And so anyway, yeah. And when you can, of course, be more open with your spouse, it's amazing how much they can help you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave if you have a male partner or a husband, don't leave him out of, oh, well, I'll handle it. It's okay. I'll take care of it. Let him be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let him send him off on his own. And when you're feeding your baby, oh, it's so much easier. I'll just do it myself. Stop that. Let him get a chance to experience that. He might be better at feeding your baby. I'm talking about baby food. I'm not talking about nursing, of course. But he might be better.
Yeah, I definitely. I would always, include my partner as far as, I'll feed the baby, you burp the baby.
Yeah.
It's like, it's definitely a partnership.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it all. I'm definitely not doing it all. So, and I think that I don't know anybody that wants to do it all. And if they want to do it all, that's stupid. That's not, you're going to be burdening your own self to be trying to do too much.
Yeah. Well, and then that's when resentment comes in.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, well, I do more and I have a job. Yeah, but you're the woman. And then, it goes back and forth. Nobody's going to win.
Oh, no, not on my watch.
Nobody's going to win with that. Especially here's the kid like, because they feel the tension.
Oh, no.
Kids will feel the tension in the household too. So anyway, and of course, there is always that bond that starts as soon as we get a glimpse of the baby on the sonogram, and you feel the movements and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if that's shared with your partner, your husband, then I have actually, I don't know about you, but I've talked, because I talk to anybody, if they're reasonable. I'm not going to talk to somebody who's a negative person, but I've talked to a few men over the years, and I have heard men say, you women have it all. You get to have babies, and I would like to experience that. I've actually talked to a couple of guys. Honestly, have you? Have you ever?
I think that guys are more sensitive than we assume,
Yes,
and I do
believe
find.
you.
I mean, the men that I've been involved with are new. Really cherish fatherhood and cherish all those moments. We think that they are just there for us, to participate, but they get excited. Yeah, absolutely. They get excited about all the little
The nuances.
milestones of the child's, growth. And
Well, they're 50% of that child.
and I think that men and women are very similar in a lot of ways, more so than we have differences.
Mhm.
So, we, as women, sometimes, we push the guy away thinking that they wouldn't be interested, but they
Mhm.
really are.
Yeah.
So that's our own fault.
Yeah. And we should have more patience with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Let them give the baby a bath, and even if they're clumsy and awkward about it. So I know myself that I was too impatient many times. I was young and feisty, and I was 26 when I had my first one, and I was 31 when I had the second one, and that's the only babies I had. But I really, looking back, I should have been more patient with their father. I really should have. And, I wish I could have said something back then,
Yeah.
because I said, "You're not doing it right." So
Let them learn. I mean, there's
Yeah.
only one way to learn,
yeah.
is by doing,
Mhm.
right? So, and that's the same for us when we're trying to do something
Mhm.
that's out of our reach and our knowledge base. That's how we learn, by making
Mhm.
mistakes. So,
Yeah, takes a lot of patience, and also make it more fun. The relationship with the child. Like we're all in this together, and we're going to try to figure this out. Okay, so I was also going to go into some of the more physiological things, because again, this podcast isn't just talking about my experiences or your experiences, but for women, even if we, like I said before, even if we read books about it, it is still very disconcerting, because things that you've never felt before, you're going to feel, such as your breasts go through multiple changes. I mean, I don't know
Your breast, your whole body.
your whole body,
I mean, are you kidding me?
but
what?
you know,
That's the least of the
I
problems.
will tell you that Dolly Parton had nothing on me. I was out there, man, and they're tight and they're sore. And I went to the doctor and said, "What's going on?" I didn't know it was going to be. Well, here's the milk is coming in. You're getting ready for that. To feed this baby. And girl, I had enough for 2 or 3 babies. I should have bottled it up because I don't know. Well, I was really healthy. I was teaching aerobics up until about 2 weeks before my first baby was
Oh,
born.
that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I was all Miss Organic Foods and everything. So maybe that's where that all came from. But I was ready right at birth. And it was during that time when the birthing, this is, a few decades ago, but it was when birthing rooms were really popular. They were sort of on the rise and they could lower the lights and the birthing bed turned into, it looked like a 4-poster bed. And then that thing folded down and all of a sudden you're there,
You should have had twins. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, then it could all be done. So anyway, we have all these reminders, but so this is the personal anecdotal story that I have, and I've talked to some of my girlfriends and regarding my introduction into basic motherhood. So this is the first one that I had. So I thought I was Wonder Woman because right after you have this baby, and I can speak for a lot of women, you feel like you just climbed Mount Everest. Did you have that feeling like, wow? I mean, I had this rush of endorphins that wouldn't stop. I was high on motherhood.
Mm.
And it's like, this is a real person.
I was in awe. I definitely was I was in love for sure. And I loved every little bit of it.
I was just amazed. I was amazed that I did this, that I lived through it and I could still walk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was amazed at just the beauty of this little perfect little human being because they really are. But anyway, so I started pushing myself too much. I was thinking that I said, well, I'm done with this. I want to go back to work in about 6 weeks, which was stupid to even think that way because I figured I went through all that. But I became sick with the flu. And at that time, my baby was only 4 weeks old. So here I had the flu. I was throwing up. I was leaking breast milk. I was coughing up, all that stuff. This is why I said warning. This might not be suitable for everybody. I was still needing to wear pads. I mean, every part of me was producing some kind of extraneous fluid. And I went to the doctor because I was really feeling sick. Turns out I had strep throat, by the way.
Oh, goodness.
So I told my OB-GYN.
Very painful.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like,
and you don't want to give it to the child.
No. But he did put me on antibiotics. And I said, God should have equipped every mother with a shutoff valve because I was rapidly becoming dehydrated. I mean, every part of me, there was something flowing out, And then you hear about people saying, women are very fluid. And I'm like, well, I sure was then, That's all there was. So, but, then we recuperate and we get through it. Do you have any stories to compare?
Absolutely not.
Yes, you do. You can't top that.
No, I have a story, but I'm not going to tell it.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. Nope.
Everybody
Pass.
has. Well, anyway, and that's another example of how we know more about life. And again, we're talking about the life. It's not like, government or anything like that. It's just life itself. Now, some new moms, they might have some help from their family, but not always. And it's unbelievably difficult to transition from pregnancy to having a full-time responsibility for a little person. So that's one thing you think like, wow, okay, that's done. But here comes this baby. And this little 6, 7, 8, 10-pound baby, whatever, changes the whole dynamic.
I can't believe that I was even given the responsibility, honestly. And made it through. And it is quite a responsibility.
It's overwhelming for some women.
Uh-huh.
But it's not so overwhelming if you do have the support of friends and family who can kind of give you a few little tips here and there. But I think this is why a lot of, the sad thing is you see a lot of, and we'll have a podcast on this another time, in our country, and you don't see this because I love statistics. For some reason here, and there are reasons that we will cover another time, there's a lot of mothers that are giving up their children, and thank God, though, that there are these places like, the fire station, or there's other places where, like a little drop-off box for these babies. But if there was more support around them to help that woman, that young woman, older woman, whoever, it could be a woman who had 6 kids, and here comes the 7th one, and she didn't have birth control, or whatever the situations are, instead of bombarding her with, you should have done this, you should have kept your legs together, you should have not done this, or whatever, support the woman in some way and don't shun her, because she already feels like hell. Let's face it, it's not easy to do that. But it is. So here you have, this new baby, and no matter how much you love him or her, it is still going to make you tired. It's still going to cause you to lose sleep. You're still going to maybe have more arguments because you're thin-skinned, because you just don't get enough rest yourself. I always thought I was a patient person, but that's when I really learned patience.
Another lesson.
Yeah.
Another really great lesson of being a parent. You learn patience.
Yeah.
And how to control your temper, and how to be reasonable, and, and you're an example, right? So you want to set the example of being a good person so your kids can follow that example.
Yeah.
So it makes you a better person. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you develop more patience for everybody, because what could be more vulnerable than a newborn baby? And there's nothing more vulnerable, no matter how awful you feel or whatever. And then if you're by yourself, you have to create a network of friends and support, or someone that understands what you're going through, because we do tend to put too much, okay, well, she made that choice, and yeah, she made that choice, but somebody made that choice for you years ago too, so we need to be a little more compassionate. I don't see that as much nowadays. So anyway, and for the most part, moms are very, very strong, and they're very committed, and they're in it for the long run, but they are still going to need some kind of support.
I think you have to ask for help when you need it, right? So whether that's your spouse, or that's your mother, or your sister, or your friend, or your a niece, or a nephew, or you have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And if you can't just be the hero and try to do it all and then come back as the martyr later. I don't respect people that do that. They try to do everything, and I can do this, I can do everything, I don't need your help. And then later they come back and put it, hey, you never helped. Well, you never asked, right? So you have to ask for help to receive it.
Yeah, that's very true. You should not be suffering in silence.
Exactly.
That's a super good point, because that's the other side of the spectrum,
Yes.
I had to do all this all by myself, and
I wouldn't want to come back later, raising children and taking it all on myself, and then, throwing it in someone's face that they didn't ever help, or they're not going to know unless you ask. They're not going to know where you need help. They're not going to be able to contribute in these spots where you have needs if you're not asking for help wherever you need it, and finding those people that'll help you.
And there really is a lot of help.
Right.
As much as there is this one side of what's going on in the internet, there is amazing, wonderful, exciting things on the internet that will help you, and lots of organizations that are there to help.
Volunteers, and the hospital itself. You can ask for a nursing, maybe an intern to come to your house, help you learn how to breastfeed, or help you with the baby. They would love to.
Yeah.
Or wherever, I'm sure, your spouse will be happy to help you if you reach out to them as well.
Yeah, that is the other side of the coin, is don't be afraid to ask. Oh, well, we can also bring up another stage of life, from toddlers to school-age kids and beyond. The growing up and teaching the kids about life. See, And because we are the first teachers. So I remember reading, there was a book about that. Of course, I always interject that I taught school because I really loved teaching school. And I loved seeing that little spark of knowledge that when a child finally gets it, even if they're only 2 or 3 or 4 and you explain something and however small and primitive it might be. So we are the first teachers in their life. And so I want to mention too that kids are going to be inquisitive and tactile. And so always give them something to play with. Of course, it's safe. That helps them to develop
Motor skills.
the motor skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that helps them, that's like the first step of really understanding about the world around them. So we used to, the Montessori approach to teaching is to let them learn about stacking blocks or give them different textured things, like foam squares and foam balls. They can stack those little foam squares. They can learn how to do simple math, like if there's 3, they can take 1 away. How many do we have left? Oh, we have 2. Yeah, yay. And you help them learn stuff. The world is their oyster, so to speak. Everything is brand new and exciting. That's why they giggle so much and they laugh so much if they're happy and healthy and they have a really supportive
Little sponges, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they will be a lot happier and better developed if they have that if they have a lot of not only support, I use that word a lot, but it's a good word.
Interaction.
Yeah. Interaction. And also, just visual teaching aids and stuff. So another thing worth mentioning is about moms and dealing with life with kids while working full time. We get home sometimes and we're just already stressed out from work. And then here come the kids with their issues. And then there's food and everybody's hungry, It really is a juggling act to keep everything on an even keel and to keep up with that balance for your health and your mental health. And that's where making sure that your partner or your husband, instead of competing, that's what I see. I would see that all the time. Again, as a teacher, when we have these parents, well, I work a full day, and when I come home, I expect there to be dinner. If you're just working part-time, this is constant bickering about ridiculous things. Just because somebody works all day and the other person, doesn't have that same workload, doesn't mean that they're not tired too. You can't get blood from a turnip, in other words. So trying to rationalize I make more money than you, so therefore blah, 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 that doesn't make any difference. Human beings still need time to eat, sleep, and rest.
I mean, it shouldn't be a competition. It should be a union to raise these kids in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off, so creating a system that it works for everyone is not easy.
No, it's not. And then when kids get older, like I'm saying, like even as young as 6, 7, and 8, they can start taking care of their room. You give them a little laundry basket in their room and make sure that they learn how to pull the sheets up, on their bed or something, just little things at a time. Maybe have a little set of a little cubby in their room where they keep their shoes and, because that helps implant a system in their mind.
Responsibilities. Yeah.
I was just thinking, mostly it was middle school and high school that I've taught in, but I remember years ago, I also worked with some autistic kids and, regular ed kids in elementary. And so elementary school is really a lot of fun. I still prefer the older kids though, but the elementary kids are so cute because they really love a structure. And that kind of sets the tone for all of humanity. That's what, it's one thing to be a parent, know your kid or 2 or 3 kids, that's one thing. But when you've dealt with a lot of kids, you really see sort of like the evolution of humanity when you've been in classrooms as much as I have and other teachers have. But little kids, they will tell you, or even if you're substitute teaching, which after I retired, I was still back substitute teaching, but the little kids will say, well, we only keep our jackets over here. Oh, and here's where we give each other a blue card and a green card and a yellow card for behavior. And I think, Jimmy or Janice or whatever should have a red card today, or whatever. They'll tell you, as a sub.
Yeah, a structure even at home as far as like what time is mealtime,
Yeah.
what time do we leave for school? What time is bath
Yeah.
time? What time is bedtime? Kids thrive in structure.
They do.
And which for some of us that are more free-spirited and have like a hippie kind of realm, it's hard to have structure. I mean, for me, it was extremely hard to have structure, but a necessity to be successful in
Yeah.
my day to raise kids, right?
Yeah.
You have to get those kids on school on time. You have to have, they have to have 3 meals a day. And, all of that is structure.
Structure actually gives you more freedom because you have your freedom when you've covered all the other bases. So, yeah, but our minds and bodies are already structured in the sense that we already have a rhythm or a biorhythm. We go to sleep at night usually. A lot of people, I'm a night owl, but I'm just, we'll say that. So we go to sleep. We supposedly should have at least 7 to 8 hours every night. You get up and then you have breakfast, which is break the fast. You usually have 3 meals a day because that's about how long it takes to digest. And then your body's blood sugar plummets and then you have to, get more protein in food. And then your energy levels will fluctuate during the day, for men and
And
women.
kids can't learn if they don't have the proper nutrition
Yeah.
in their systems and, structure, like you were saying.
Yeah. And it's really good for the parents too. I mean, because then they know what to expect. So anyhow, I guess we can kind of do a little wrap that, we know that moms are the nurturers and the creators of life, teachers, and our wisdom and insight. It's really incomparable to those who haven't taken on that experience. And you really can't argue with that because when we take that on, that it changes our life too. I wouldn't be the same person at all. I might be happy. I would have been happy and brave.
Of all the money that I spent on these children, just think
And
you
the
just have this fat bank account.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
So anyway, we will put online, we'll give you some links, all the listeners some links on different ways to navigate through motherhood, and also some links on those organizations that are helpful that you can call on, and even for special ed parents too.
Nice. Our website is www.jointheconversationwithsummerkeith.com. And we look forward to connecting with you online.
Give us a like or two. Thank you. Thank you for listening.